Welcome to a fresh episode of the latest tech news. We've got Samsung, Google Pixel 4a leaks, Huawei in the news today, and are you bored of the OnePlus 8 series leaks yet? We've got a couple of days left and we have even more information today. First off, good news if you watch a lot of YouTube, which I'm guessing you do. A bunch of YouTube original programs that are usually paid or part of YouTube Premium are now completely free to watch. Up to about 14 different shows. These have been free since the 8th of April and will be shut off eventually in the future, although no date has been given. YouTube just wants to get people watching their original programs right now, as a lot of people need stuff to watch. Free programs, always a good thing, so go check it out. The Google Pixel 4a, this is a new phone coming from Google. This is their mid-range phone, so we've had the 4 and 4 XL, which are their flagships, and now the 4a, which is coming, and it's been leaked everywhere. So we've got these images, apparently hands-on images, and also renders of the phone. The specs list has also completely leaked. We know the phone's getting a Snapdragon 730 processor, which is a very decent mid-range processor. Not the best mid-range, but it's okay. It's only got 4G, so it should keep the price down. We also have a 12 megapixel camera. I assume that's the same camera as we get in the more expensive phones, an 8 megapixel selfie, capable of 4K video recording at 30 frames a second. Remember, Google don't give us 60 frames a second. It also apparently has an OLED display, which makes the decision to put the fingerprint sensor on the back slightly strange, but hey, that's what the renders are saying. I actually quite like the hole punch design. I don't think it's terrible. It is on the bigger side, but I think it looks at least better than the 4 and 4 XL with those huge bezels. A 3000 odd milliamp hour battery and 18 watt fast charging. I think those are pretty good specs. And apparently the phone will be coming at $400. That's actually a really interesting price because we have the iPhone 9 or iPhone SE, whatever it will be called, also coming at $400 apparently. And these are two cheaper end phones, but there's a huge difference in what they give. The Apple is giving the absolute latest and greatest chipset, the A13, and a very decent camera, you know. Whereas the Pixel at the same price is giving a more modern design for sure, a very good camera too in photo, maybe not as good as the Apple in video. And also the chipset in the Google is just absolutely nowhere near the Apple's A13 chipset. So you have to put up with an old design, but you get some really great specs or some good specs and a modern design. Difficult decisions. I guess I'll leave it up to you to decide which one you like. The P40 Pro has literally just been released and still hasn't been released in a lot of countries for obvious reasons. But apparently the Mate 40 Pro is also in the works, of course, and we got loads of information on that. So we know that every year the Mate 40 series is the series that gets the brand new chipset from Huawei. This time will be the Kirin 1020, otherwise known as Baltimore inside of Huawei. This chipset will apparently offer a performance boost of about 15% maybe, and an efficiency boost of maybe 30%, although that's going to vary depending on the other things that Huawei do. But something really weird and different that may come to the P40 Pro is something called a Freeform Lens. And yeah, it's more camera stuff on a Huawei phone. So apparently this type of lens is an ultra-wide lens and can be used on the ultra-wide to give an even wider angle without the distortion that you usually get with ultra-wide angle lenses. So usually the wider your angle, the more distorted your picture becomes until you get all the way to a fisheye lens, which basically makes everything look completely crazy and weird and obviously isn't something that smartphones can give us. So the company that makes this freeform lens says that their technology basically eliminates all of that weird distortion whilst giving us a wider angle. Even though the name for the lens is really cool and futuristic, freeform lens, it's actually just a name given to a normal lens that uses some more advanced manufacturing techniques, more advanced and precise angles and different optical techniques to give us that wider angle without the distortion. So yeah, Huawei will not be giving up. Advancements in chipsets and camera hardware for sure will be coming on the Mate 40 Pro. So let's watch out for it. And there's more when it comes to the OnePlus 8 series. So we've seen the renders by now. This is what the OnePlus 8 and 8 Pro will look like. But we also got this official teaser directly from the company that shows off some of the design sketches that they went through. And then the official product at the end, coming in this new green color that they call Glacial Green. I think the most popular color may be the Instagram color that people are calling it. That's not the official name, by the way. But that actually is apparently only on the OnePlus 8. The 8 Pro Pro isn't getting that color, but it will be getting green, blue, black at least. And the green and blue apparently are matte finishes, whereas the black is more of a shiny finish. We can make out just in this official teaser the top and bottom bezels of the phone. You can see that the top bezel has an indent, whereas the bottom doesn't, so they will be different. We have seen some other phones that have given us indents in both the top and bottom, most notably Oppo phones, and I think some Realme phones do it as well, which is unsurprising given the link. So the bottom will have an outward curve just like normal, and the top having that indent. Also the speaker grills there, you can see there's fewer openings and they're actually elongated. This is again very reminiscent of a lot of Oppo phones I've seen and Realme phones that use these longer grills rather than fewer, smaller, circular ones. And a bit more on the prices on the OnePlus 8 series. We got these leaks that it may be coming for €750 for the OnePlus 8 and about €950 for the OnePlus 8 Pro, which I actually think is pretty accurate. Look at a competitor, for example, the Xiaomi Mi 10 Pro, that came at €1,000 when it came in Europe. And actually the specs of these two phones fundamentally are fairly similar. Actually, the OnePlus 8 Pro goes a bit further than the Mi 10 Pro in terms of the screen quality and the refresh rate. Also, it has a fairly expensive camera setup, and everything else like the processor, the RAM, the storage are very, very similar. So I don't expect the 8 Pro to be coming too much under €1,000. So we all know about the story of Samsung and its Exynos chipsets, its custom built Mongoose cores that it spent tons of time, money, effort in developing and never quite got to the performance of the ARMed design cores that most other manufacturers use. Apple, Huawei, even Qualcomm that manufacture the Snapdragon chipsets like the Snapdragon 865 use ARMed design cores because they simply are the best. The Exynos in terms of performance has lagged quite a fair way behind the Snapdragon chipsets that Samsung use in some markets in their phones. Customers aren't really too happy about it right now, as the gulf in performance can be as much as about 20%. But anyway, we know that Samsung has disbanded that team and they're going to be using ARM architectures going forward. And some news out of South Korea tells us that Google may actually be their first customer for their new chipset. So apparently, according to the report, Google are going to be purchasing a 5nm chipset from Samsung's Exynos division. And that is this year and could be going into some of their products. And this is really big news. Firstly, because it confirms that a 5nm Exynos chipset may be coming this year, and also that it will be using the latest and greatest ARM designs, and that means a powerful and efficient chipset that should go head to head with some of the best chipsets in the industry. We know from experience that the ARMed design Cortex cores are more efficient than Samsung's own versions, so that means a more powerful phone, a more efficient phone, better battery life, better performance, and less throttling at those really high levels. This chipset will apparently have two A78 cores, two A76 cores, and two A55 cores, and really should go on par with some of the best chipsets. The graphics that they'll be using in this chipset is apparently an as yet unannounced Mali GPU from ARM. Actually, the ARM designed graphics processors aren't the very best in the industry, but as a chipset as a whole, it's a definite improvement for Samsung. We also know that Samsung will be teaming up with AMD to provide better GPUs. So this is really exciting for the progress of the Exynos chipset division. We heard that Google may be doing away with a Snapdragon 865 variant phone, not using that in their flagship Pixel phones this year, but they could be using this Exynos chipset instead. This chipset also could find its way to the Galaxy Note 20 series. There's no reason why not if it's available in time. And when it comes to the Google phones, apparently Google are going to be taking out the ISP and the NPU. That's the image signal processor and the neural processing unit, using their own hardware for that. That's because Google have their own hardware when it comes to this, and these are the things that Google uses to process their images. And yeah, there's no reason to give up those because obviously Google are doing a great job there. Also, some other exciting news is that according to Ice Universe, the Galaxy S21 series could be the first series of phones ever to come to market and feature under-screen cameras. This is definitely a huge bit of news and a big step for Samsung. We know that under-screen cameras are coming. We know that there are some initial problems with producing them. Firstly, putting a camera under a screen means that there's not enough light that gets to the image sensor, so image quality can be degraded and not be that great overall. Also, the secondary problem is just how you try to hide the camera unit under that screen without having a square cutout in the screen and making it look like nothing is there. Anyway, we got a lot of rumors saying that this tech may be ready towards the end of this year. It may be used first with some Chinese manufacturers to test out the technology, test out the production lines, and then in the future, maybe in a year or so's time, come to flagship phones. But according to this leak from Ice Universe, who is not often wrong, it looks like the technology has got to a point where Samsung are pretty confident that they can pull this off in not just one of their mid-range phones, but their flagship series, the S21 series.